Hello, everybody. Thank you guys for coming, especially for braving such a warm and festive winter evening. Really appreciate it. I would like to welcome you guys. My name is Nathan Fox. I'm the chair of the MFA Visual Narrative Program here at SVA. It's a low residency graduate program in visual storytelling that places emphasis on both creative writing and visual art equally. It is my supreme pleasure to have you guys here, especially this evening with our artists in residence, as this is our kind of inaugural year in total. We launched, Pan and I launched the RisoLAB just a bit over a year ago. Our artists in residence, this is our first launch of this, and I'm really proud to have them here and be able to continue this program. So thank you guys very much. The program that I run is based in storytelling. So self-publishing and original content is massive. So for us to be able to provide, offer, and even just generate the RisoLAB that drew these artists and others to it, to begin with, is phenomenal. And I couldn't have done that without Pan. And we ended up meeting again about a year ago and really got together and tried to push to bring something unique that the school didn't have that would really emphasize that sense of agency, authorship, and publishing. And Pan, as you guys will meet in a second, Panagiotis Terzis is an amazing printmaker, easily a master Riso smith, and an artist in his own right. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce Pan Terzis.
Thanks, Nathan. And thanks everyone for coming out tonight. We have a few slides, giving a brief nod to the visual narrative program, which as Nathan just mentioned, is a really groundbreaking program combining visual storytelling and various mediums, artists, and creators from all different backgrounds. And Rizograph printing is kind of what's brought us together tonight. About a year ago, to see kind of where we've come is pretty amazing. We're reaching the end of our fourth semester at the RisoLAB, and I have to say I'm humbled, but I'm not surprised by how far the space has come in just a little over a year. We started out with 20 students spread across 2 courses, both taught by me, and 1 employee, also me, in the fall of 2015. And since then, we've grown to a student population of 72 students enrolled in 3 continuing ed courses and 1 undergrad course, having added 2 faculty members, Paul John, PJ, and Patrick Crody, in addition to myself. Very, very briefly, I just want to go over Rizograph, the Rizograph printing process, which you guys are still going to be completely confused about, even after my description and potentially after tonight. It'll clear up a little bit, but essentially, Rizograph printers, they're unique printing machines that print individual color layers via stencils that are automatically applied to color cylinders. The process works like an automated screen printing machine crossed with a copier and an offset printer. They're traditionally marketed to offices, churches, restaurants, and schools. So, but in the past decade or so, artists have kind of discovered them and put them to use in all kinds of print and publishing experiments. This is a phenomenon that's occurred parallel to the massive rebirth of self-publishing and zine culture, which is sort of a response to, but also connected to all kinds of subcultures sort of exploding out of the internet and all kinds of different people finding each other. So these are 2 parallel phenomenons that have happened. This has created a space where artists and photographers, creative people from all kinds of different backgrounds, designers, converge and share ideas in various print projects. At the lab, essentially, we're dedicated to providing an interdisciplinary space for printing, publishing, and production of risograph-based printed works. Our mission is to become a hub of small-scale and experimental printing and publishing activity that brings together artists of all backgrounds and disciplines to encourage dialogue across different creative worlds and foster discussion about the role of print media as a vehicle for art and culture, and as a way to work out creative ideas that lead to unexpected results that would not be possible without the sole reliance on today's digital tools. So here you see there's a few scenes. This is one of our other current artists in residence, Greg Foley, with a workshop that he recently led, where we opened up our space to the public to come in and sort of test out these machines. As you can see, that's the Riso. You know, they look like just traditional copy machines, but they're really these kind of amazing, incredible machines that sort of force the artist to really get involved in the process. And we've done all kinds of collaborations with different departments, including the Department of the International Studies program. So this is a workshop that we led over the summer with a group of students from China, Korea, and a few students from Japan. So at the end of the spring semester of 2016, we added our Artist in Residence program to our growing list of collaborations with other departments and all kinds of endeavors as a chance to open up the lab for individuals with a unique vision to come into the space, learn the process, and develop a print-based project incorporating Riso printing and elements of self-publishing. And tonight you're going to get a chance to hear from 3 of our artists in residence, Fawn Krieger, Harvey Reading, and Tran. I also want to mention that we have an event that we've been running every semester at the conclusion of the semester, where we give our students a chance to sell the work that they've made, exhibit it, trade. So we're going to have our 4th semi-annual print slam on Monday, and this Monday it's going to be from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So if anyone wants to come out and see in person some of the work that's been made this semester in the lab, we'd love to have you there. Additionally, we'll be having an information session on January 11th. That's a Wednesday, where you'll be able to get a chance to come out and hear from all of us individually, the 4 faculty members from the RisoLAB, and also you'll get to test out the machines and kind of see what it's all about. So before we start tonight, I want to leave you with just a few ideas to think about that I think are really the 2 kind of themes that are closely connected to sort of using Rizograph printing to create artworks and publications. This process requires you to become deeply involved in the process by separating colors and controlling the speed, pressure, and the position of the drums during print runs, which connects this process with the history of artists using technology to make all kinds of new kinds of work, different sort of artworks. So what we're doing essentially by taking these machines that weren't designed to create multi-layer prints, we're joining the tradition of artists such as Robert Rauschenberg, Gretchen Bender, Namjoon Paik, who have taken technology and sort of used that to change their work and change the process and ultimately change the message of the work that they're creating. It's the collaboration between man and machine, which is something that I don't think you can separate when you work with a machine, a technology like Riso. The other theme that I want you guys to think about as you see what our artists in residence have come up with during their time here is that Risograph printing taps into the possibilities that printing technologies have always provided, the power to develop and express a unique point of view and to spread that message throughout society. This kind of activity is crucial for a healthy civil society to flourish in a democracy, and I think it's more important than ever as our core democratic values come increasingly under threat. So here at the RisoLAB, we're committed to absolute freedom of expression and providing a space for aesthetic, technological, and conceptual experiments in art and print. So I'm going to introduce our first artist in residence, Fawn Krieger, Fawn Krieger is a New York-based artist whose multi-genre works examine themes of touch, ownership, and exchange. She received her BFA from Parsons School of Design and her MFA from Bard College's Milton Avery Graduate School of the Arts. Her work has been exhibited at the Kitchen, Art in General, Nice and Fit Gallery, the Moore Space, Von Lintel Gallery, the Rose Art Museum at Brandeis University, and many, many more. She's been featured in New York Times, Artforum, Art in America, Sculpture Magazine, New York Arts, Flash Arts, and Texte zur Kunst. Fawn's received numerous grants, including those from Art Matters Foundation, John Anson Kittredge Educational Fund, and the Jerome Foundation. She serves as a grant officer and educational director at the Keith Haring Foundation. Her current project, a line of experimental workwear she designs and fabricates herself called Outfit, is presented in the form of a mail order economy, the first catalog of which she produced through her residency at SVA's RisoLAB. And she was also our very first artist in residence. I worked very closely with her with many, many, many sessions to help her produce her beautiful catalog of her work documenting her project, which she's about to show you, which led to all kinds of interesting discussions about art and technology, about politics, about many, many themes that I'm sure she's about to delve into. So enough from me. I want to introduce our first artist in residence, Fawn Krieger.
Thanks, Pan. Before I begin, I just want to thank Nathan and Joan. Where is Joan? Oh, here you are. And Pan, and especially Pan, as you noted. I really learned a lot working with you, and I didn't come into this process as an illustrator or designer. I'm really more of a sculptor. So there was a really big learning curve for me, and I appreciate so much the opportunity to receive this fellowship, because I actually learned a new skill in addition to producing a project I'm really proud of. Okay, so to start off with, this sort of anchors where I'm coming from with the project that I worked on in the RisoLAB. I want to talk about this term called soft power. This photo shows Nixon in a conversation with Khrushchev. It's from 1959 at what was sort of the equivalent of a Cold War World's Fair. There were a series of conventions in the late 50s that were held in Moscow, East Berlin, New York City, that promoted a cross-cultural dialogue between Soviet and East German countries and American capitalism. So in this photo, what you see is took place in Moscow in an entirely recreated model American home, replete with a method acting American family who used all of the state-of-the-art American domestic appliances. The idea of it was to promote the advances of capitalist technology. And it's where this idea of soft power was born. It is essentially defined as propaganda of stuff. It's mild persuasion of ideologies through things, the things that we live with, primarily domestic goods. And in this project, I've been thinking a lot about how our role of consumers enters the home and how the home becomes a kind of battleground. So, of course, I'm thinking about where we are now in relation to our role as consumers, how we access information, how much we're accountable to what corporations provide us, what it says about our ideologies, what those corporations want us to think. And so, you know, we're in sort of a soft power moment again. And I think initially when I started thinking about this project a couple of years ago, I was thinking about the clothes I wear and how they are, in essence, the first thing that touches my body in the world. And I started to think about all of the inequitable conditions that go into the fabrication of my apparel. Child labor, inequitable pay, sometimes slavery, nationalistic ideals, corporate profiteering. And I just thought how ironic it was that I'm putting these ideals right on top of my body. And I started to ask myself, like, how I could begin to bring my ideals to the outside and start to reinforce them in the things that contained my body. So originally I thought, I'm gonna make a line of clothing for myself, which subsequently evolved into a mail order economy. And in the RisoLAB residency, I designed and printed a functional mail order catalog. I did an edition of, sorry, I'm so nervous. I did an edition of 250, and I maybe have about 40 left, so I've been sending them out. Should I read this? It says, Outfit is a mail order catalog by Fawn Krieger containing experimental, modular, and practical workwear situated somewhere between theater and sculpture, a wearable stage. It is informed in part by Cold War soft power consumerism, propagandistic merchandise in the form of domestic luxury goods, implemented as a medium of protest. Outfits are designed for working bodies moving through urban spaces from morning through night and are made from pre-washed high-quality cotton canvas duck. How do we live in our things in ways that support our labor and movement? So even before I got this opportunity, I envisioned this mail order catalog as being printed in the Rizograph method. That was my fantasy for it. And the sort of primary reason why was because I wanted to print photographs, but I wanted them to be somewhat obscured and sort of a hybrid between illustration and photography. My desire was that it would demand of a recipient of the catalog to really take a risk in trusting the media to potentially reach out and try to buy one. And I'm sort of interested in that threshold moment when we become consumers and sort of slowing that down. These are just some pages. There's like a little tear out order form. The clothing emphasizes movement, practicality, labor, and androgyny. So I titled the project, obviously, Outfit. In designing the logo, I was thinking about letters that sort of become subjects or people, almost like ancient runes, and thinking about sort of like how to express something gigantic through language. So the term outfit came out of course, wearing an outfit, but it also came out of thinking about not just physical movement in an outfit, but also social movement and the idea of like kind of an outfit as a team or a group or a community. So this project, I'm going to sort of bring up a few other things that I've been working on or that connect to this project, previous work. For just about 10 years, I have been researching this phenomenon of rubble mountains around Germany. They were built out of the architectural wreckage of World War II. And what you see on the left with that architectural structure in the background is one of the largest rubble mountains in Berlin. In Germany, it's located in Berlin, and that is a former espionage tower for West Germany on the top of the mountain, placed there, of course, because it was the highest point in the city. just some variations on other rebel mountains. This is in Stuttgart, and it's an open air church at the top of a rubble mountain. And for contrast, this is on the left, a rubble mountain on the outskirts of Dresden, and just put this in, and just in terms of showing you sort of the vast differences in how the mountains sort of inhabit both geographical / physical space, as well as sort of psychological pockets and social pockets within the culture. Through this research, I've also been interviewing former rubble women who cleaned up the rubble. It was a primarily female manual labor force. So I've been, sort of the impetus for the work was in looking at what happens when women build. But this project has it's research, and it's really sort of inspired a lot of other work of mine, sort of quietly. One way is, for example, that it was the beginning of when I started to look at the work dress and what women wear to work in. But also it meant going to Germany a lot. And on one of my early trips to Germany, I was in a flea market and picked up a fashion magazine from East Germany. And I opened it to the center, and where we would normally think of as the centerfold of a fashion magazine, we're thinking of the height of what's inaccessible. In the center of this East German fashion magazine were patterns for everything in the magazine. So I became kind of really enthralled with this idea of what does it look like to want or show socialized products, and how could I experiment with that? And so I started collecting mail order catalogs from socialist countries. This one is from the Soviet Union, specifically Estonia, from the early 60s. This is a contrast. They're both from 1968. On the left is an East German mail order catalog page, and on the right is an American Spiegel catalog page. And again, you can maybe see here why I was interested in this sort of hybrid illustration photography. I should say this says something like cooperation in the construction of socialism, a meaningful life for the modern woman. And collecting these things sort of took me back to my own childhood. I didn't grow up with the internet. I got an email address after I graduated college, and I often think about being sort of the last generation who can translate between two native tongues, a non-digital and a digital tongue. And growing up with these things, this was how you became a consumer at home. And also looking at this is from the mid-20s Russia. It's a theater costume design book. Russian constructivism. This is Tatlin's design for a man's leisure suit. This idea of anti-fashion or practicality dictating your apparel. Rudchenko and Stepanova, other constructivists. And also I was thinking a lot about clothing as prop, or as active agent within performing. Some other work that I was working on sort of before this, these are sculptures called interiors, but sort of my informal titles for them are, on the left is pants, and on the right are boot 1 and boot 2. This is another sculpture that preceded this work, just sort of thinking of merging the body or the subject with the thing that contains it. This project is not my first commercial experiment. I was commissioned by Art in General in a former storefront space in Chinatown to make a functioning shop that was originally inspired by Klaus Oldenburg's The Store from 1961 that sold like sort of schlocky renditions of sculptural renditions of everyday objects. But it also sort of like started my research into like what artist economies were and looked like, and their histories. Obviously Warhol and the Factory, Gordon Matta Clark's Food, which was a functional restaurant in Soho in the 70s. David Hammons's Snowball Sale in downtown New York. You guys like that one? That one's really inspiring. And Keith Haring's Pop Shop from the mid-'80s. So this is the interior of that project that I did called Company, and the exterior as well. And the project created kind of like all of these collisions for me. It was really awkward to position my artwork as like product, but it also was part of my research. Like what happens when we become consumers, and how do the people I even know, how do they change, and how do I kind of make a fissure in that moment of being sort of an intellectual with agency to becoming a consumer, being who's in an environment desiring and coveting things. And so practically it presented itself as a challenge because like people would come in, you know, and get in an argument with the salesperson because they wanted more, you know, artwork than their limited quota, or they would, you know, sort of break the rituals that were sort of part of the project. And those moments were like really problematic, but also very interesting to me, and sort of like created in the work a life of its own. So originally, when we first started talking about this residency and doing a lecture, and I was like, I really want to wait to share this project until I'm able to send out the mail order catalog and really get feedback and fulfill orders and actually like realize the whole exchange. And again, it's really interesting, some of the problems and dilemmas, but also like really kind of beautiful things that have come from it. Like, for example, you know, people receive the mail order catalog and they don't realize that they could actually order something. Like, you know, there's such a distance between the print media and that being a method of shopping now that even that was kind of like novel again. You know, a number of people saying that the prices were too high. And then, you know, these are people who are like really thinking critically about the world we live in and you know, just having discussions about like what is the price of the things we wear. Like maybe it's not a monetary price, but like how are we paying for affordability in what we wear, and what does it really look like when we pay its worth in money, and also struggling myself with like this is what it costs to make this thing, and then you know, a lot of people emailing me and asking me for clearer photos because they want to buy something, but the mail order catalog isn't providing the clear photo. And just like, you know, like what constitutes a system of trust in a commercial exchange, and sort of challenging that and seeing how those behaviors have become so remote. To experiment with and how to reactivate them. That's all really interesting to me. I think the most exciting thing has been receiving photos like this from people who have gotten outfits and have expressed to me that they feel this kind of like agency and somewhere between being like glamorous and also like they're ready to work in their studio, which really was the beginning impetus for me to inhabit the outfit myself. And that's been kind of like a really wonderful thing to find, that my meaning in the work has expanded into other people's experiences. So, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I'm not just a promoter of outfit, I'm also a wearer. So, but I brought some for you, if anybody wants, and then I also brought some mail order catalogs of my own, as well as some archival mail order catalogs from my collection. I just ask you to be obviously careful with them because they're, some of them are fragile. So, thank you. Oh, I have to stay here for questions.
So if anyone has any questions for Fawn, we're going to open it up for Q&A for 5-10 minutes. Questions in the audience?
It was just very, very striking to see the sweater with Ivanka Trump.
Sorry, do you want to just start again?
It was very striking to see the photograph of the sweater and said made in China. It was just very, very powerful to see that, and to have you be thinking about commodities and the political significance of them today. And I think there's a lot. I think we artists could do a lot of political art around the Trump brand.
Yeah, I mean, where do we even begin with our response to Trump as representatives of agency? Yeah, I think you're right.
Any other questions or?
I'm just curious how is selling. Oh, sorry, that's cool. I'm just curious how is it selling a product? How do you strike a balance with offering a catalog that's also an artistic piece? Whereas when you were saying some people wish that the products were clearer photographs, I don't know, how do you make a balance on that when you're actually selling something?
Well, how I'm thinking of it is my products are also artwork. So, and the exchange I'm thinking of as an experiment, and I guess another word is the exchange itself is an artwork. So even though there's a monetary exchange that's happening, this is like nothing. I can't live on this. This is about research and proposing another way to consider these questions as we maybe activate less experimental systems or machinery in our culture. So to me, the reproduction not being clear is part of slowing down that process. So somebody might get frustrated and be like, I need to see another photo, but then they have to have an exchange. And in that exchange, I might say, well, here's another photo, but just, the economy is intended to be non-digital, and, just to slow down that process.
Do we have any more questions before we move on to the next artist?
I guess just seeing these and the evolution that it's come from your research to here in terms of moving forward and the culmination of that research progressing into or evolving as the clothing line or your feedback might evolve, it has the feedback that you've been getting and the responses, and as your research grows, is that informing where this might be heading, as well as potentially, the data that you would get back from those designs and how they're used and how long they last, and kind of that agency of ownership and engagement with not only a piece of art but also a functional utility. Yeah,
it's a really good question because, you know, God, I don't even know where to begin with that because there's a lot of questions in it. I mean, simply put, it's funny what's happened in the evolution because I know whenever I get an order, I'm like, oh, I have to make another one. And so what I'm finding that the evolution of the project is less in the clothing and more in like almost that the possibility that somebody could become a consumer, but almost like it rarely ever happening, and in those glimmer moments. So I think, you know, I sort of developed this thinking that I would continue to make mail order catalogs just periodically, no like systematic, you know, calendar or whatever, but just whenever I felt like it. But I imagine it evolving into like an even more sort of, not that this is incoherent, but a more obscure format where buying something really means taking a risk and really not knowing.
Well, thank you, Fawn.
I have one more question.
One more question.
Yeah.
Where's the?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you guys have to wait till
Sorry.
the mic goes there.
Since we're recording this, we have to. We have a special mic for the.
Okay.
Thank you. I think this is a very fascinating topic that you're exploring.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. I was wondering how much consideration you gave to the a body image, the body image of the model, because it's had such an impact on women, what models look like and how clothes portray or sexualize, objectify a female body. I was just wondering what your take on that is.
Yeah. Well, again, there's a number of questions in that because one thing I've found, of course, is as much as I want these designs to be compatible with everybody's body, that hasn't always been the case. And I will recreate and modify, you know, free of charge, any size, or, you know, and I really try to be like as supportive of different bodies in that respect as I can be, but I'm frustrated myself that it's not possible to make something that will fit everybody at once. But in terms of thinking specifically about women's bodies, of course, this is, and the politics around how we frame them, how we perceive them, how it feels to be in one, is like a really, you know, it's a lifetime of work. I think with this project, I was thinking about how I know I become the least self-conscious of my body to really work, you know? And it's when things aren't tight. It's when things have pockets that can hold everything. I don't have to schlep around bags. But more important, like when those baggy characteristics don't dismantle my own gender experience, where they still support it, and I still feel like I'm inhabiting my particular experience of being a female and having a female body.
Do we have any more questions?
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so thank you, Fawn. That was illuminating and definitely fleshed out a lot of the conversations we had while we were making your beautiful catalog. So next up, we have Harvey Reading. Harvey Reading's art and design work has been shown at the Yale University Library, the Center George Pompidou, the Cooper Union, the Leslie Lohman Gay and Lesbian Art Museum's project space, and it's in the collection. His work is in the collection of the Librairie National in Paris, the Austrian Museum of Applied Arts in Vienna, and the New York City Public Library in New York. His design and curatorial credits range from Barbie doll's 30th Pink Jubilee birthday party fashion retrospective at Lincoln Center for Mattel Toys, and a traveling museum for Hasbro's G.I. Joe action figures. So we got some amazing contrasts and comparisons there. To the history-making photography retrospective, Berlin on Berlin, for the legendary gay sex icon, Peter Berlin. Publishing credits include Purgatory Pie Press and Bruno Gmunder. And it's my pleasure to introduce Harvey Reading.
So, I have a lot of friends here. It's very sweet that you've all come. This is my this is my second piece of artwork that I did. Some of you may know of the Gaily Theater. Anybody here remember the Gaily? Yeah? This is my first attempt using the Riso printing machine, and I wanted to experiment a little bit about color and how to use it. This was me kind of working out all the issues about print. Maybe I should say a few words about the Gaily Theater. This was a kind of odd burlesque hall in Times Square above the Howard Johnsons. And it was kind of an odd place that you would go to see dancers who would, believe it or not, have to dance with an erection. And the place was above the Howard Johnsons. But it became kind of legendary when Madonna did a photo shoot there. Anyway, this is my, I think, first successful print. And I'll talk a little bit more about the color process. I decided to move on from, and not use my drawing skills, but to do more collage work. And I did this series of 9 prints having to do with really the pain of my childhood, being in the closet. And so I did this series called, actually I don't really have a name for it, but it's about kind of hidden identity of being a gay man or a gay boy. And I found a kind of odd little ad in Popular Mechanics, I think for an insurance company. So I combined it with some of really kind of hilarious derogatory terms for gay men. I don't know whether you've heard the term donut puncher before, but they're slightly humorous, but kind of oddly painful at the same time. This is another piece I did. And these colors are a little bit distorted because of the light in here, I think. But you know, this printing process has the most glorious colors. And I know it's a little hard to understand what this press is like. Pan mentioned it's kind of looks like a copy machine, a slightly bloated copy machine, but it's actually an automated silkscreen machine. And it prints very, very quickly. And it prints in extremely bright, appealing colors that are almost like candy. The colors are so absolutely radiant. And, well, this is another print of the same series. Another horrifying derogatory term, which is funny, but not so funny, I guess. Another ridiculous term, which I've never heard before. A gay man from Oklahoma, I guess. It's another piece. and of course, friend of Dorothy. So this was my experiments finding out how these colors interact with each other. There's about a 20, maybe 25% translucent quality to the inks. So you get these really wonderful combinations of colors. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit in my life and then get back to the print work I did here at SVA. You know, when I moved to New York, I got a job as a waiter and a kitchen porter at a restaurant in Soho, which after a year and a half was, I was just over it. Anyway, I decided that I would begin making a living as an artist that week, and I would just figure out something. So I started making these postcards with collage and selling them at a store called Fiorucci. And I actually made a living for several years doing that. But this is my first print work. And this was in the late 70s, early 80s, when the Xerox company came out with a color printer, which looks basically like the Riso printer looks. So I'll show you a few of these. These are some of the pieces I did. I actually made a living for a couple of years doing this. And these were all done before digital anything. They were done with scissors and glue and all those things we used to use. There's another one. One more. Very gay, don't you think? Maybe that should be my Christmas card. Little stigmata Elvis. I guess you can't really tell because of the color here, but the Xerox color copier only had 3 colors. There was no black. And you would get these really strange color combinations. This was a little comment on religious America. That was a popular one. Back in the fashion world. This looks very similar to some of the later stuff I'll show you. Anyway, early on there was a couple who were students at Beloit College who saw my postcards, the ones I just showed you, in a store in Chicago. And when they moved to New York, they contacted me, and they were starting a fine art printing press called Purgatory Pie Press. And it was a couple named Dicko Faust and Esther K. Smith. And they asked me to start producing postcards with them. So this was my second journey into printmaking, using a letterpress. And this was the first piece we did together. This was the second. And you know, I'm still working with these people. Dicko actually teaches here at SVA. And their master printers, Esther is one of the great art directors ever, even though she can be a little difficult. Dicko is a master printer and a genius at printmaking, but these were all letterpress, and the color was done actually with linoleum, hand-cut linoleum blocks, and then all hand-printed by Dicko. And this was the first of a series that was meant to hold up to the light, and then you would see a surprise something there. The orange turns into a little globe. This was the second piece I did with them, which was kind of a funny little drawing that you would hold up to the light, and this cute little cherub appears. And then for Easter, you'll hold it up to the light, and the baby chicken appears. The series was actually a postcard of the month club that Dicko and Esther did. We moved on and started doing triptychs together. This is a piece I did on the subway. they used to have a Miss Subway competition where there'd be a young, glamorous female who would be Miss Subway for the year, I think. And so I was just kind of playing on the ridiculous idea about that. This was, I've always loved the mosaics in the subway. And then this was a fold-out piece. So it opened up and you saw the subway train. This was something Esther talked me into doing. I think she was making fun of me for being a gay man, called Harvey's House of Beauty. And you would pull the shade up, and there I magically appear with all my wonderful beauty products, shampoos and hair conditioners and things. And then the other side had this on, which you could play with. And inside were quotes by famous women and fake advertisements that I made up about the products. There's another one. Gaily curl, one of my favorite products. And a funny quote by Jane Fonda. Anyway, this was the work that I did that inspired the work I did here at SVA. This is a show I had last April. And you know, I started fooling around with windows. I think I was trying to remember my childhood, and as a gay kid, always having to look. I always felt I was looking into like I wasn't really living my life, but I was trying to grab pieces, trying to find out who I was through other worlds, windows or open doors or things. It became kind of a symbol. Anyway, I started trying to think of what my thoughts were like when I was young, and this kind of emerged and really became the format for the show and also all the work that I did here. This is another piece from the show. A little plan, fashion. And this was another window piece. I actually ended up making about 100 of these. I've always loved Baroque stage settings and toys and little paper fold-out things, and tried to continue with the idea of looking through windows as a kind of peeping Tom. This is one of the early pieces as well. And you know, I used mainly Popular Mechanics magazines and scanned them and printed them in different ways, and printed them over painted pieces and cut out the figures. And these are all, the figures are all from a really kind of tacky and slightly sordid bodybuilding magazine. There's a detail, and there's a neighbor looking out the window. And as I said, I've always loved little toy theaters, so I did quite a few pieces that had curtains and kind of theatrical things, and I used a French dictionary for some of the furniture, and the figure came from a kind of odd little advertisement for a weight-reducing harness, I think. This is a portrait I did of the early silent film star Ramon Navarro, who was murdered by two prostitutes that he had hired. And I used pieces from a catalog for, what's the toy, an erector set, kind of shield and cover his face, and just to continue with the idea of hiddenness and looking into windows or through picture frames, trying to, as a kid, trying to put together my own life by stealing bits and pieces from different worlds. This is another piece that I used a French dictionary for, also kind of a peekaboo piece. And I did a series of mirrors of images. It's another apartment building with kind of, I guess the names were from, also from a bodybuilding magazine. There's a detail. Another one. This was a large construction that I did using my black and white copier, my desk printer, but printing on color pages or color sheets that I rolled different colors on. There's a detail with, there's mom looking out the window behind what looks like me as a child. There's a close-up. Another one. So, I was very lucky to get a chance to work here this summer with this fabulous machine. This was the Print Slam, where we showed pieces at the end of the summer, and I thought up this kind of cute, corny name for what I was about to show. This is my living room with the pieces set up for the first time. Now, there are actually about 800 pieces to this. It's a sculpture, I guess. And I haven't put the whole thing together yet. This is a little section here, but it's quite massive. And it's still growing, so we'll see how big it actually gets. This is here, the night of the Print Slam, when I set it up for the first time. There's my living room with my exact replica of the Parthenon in the distance. There you can see some of the windows and some of the figures. There's another close-up. It's just fun to peek through windows and see what's happening. You know, I started printing, I really tried hard to do really exact color registration, and I had to use very heavy paper. I used 100-pound Bristol, and the machine would just not take it through consistently. So I abandoned all my plans and decided I would just handle it very painterly. And I used, with the machines you can use digital files, or you can actually use black and white originals on top, as you would a regular copy machine. So I chose that, and it was much more playful for me. I could experiment with the colors. And as I said, the colors have this really, not only vibrant color, but the translucent quality really gives you a lot of play with colors and printing on top of each other. Now, these machines are, they're kind of odd. They're definitely high tech, but you feel like you're working with a giant toy. It's like a kid's printing press in a way. It's very high tech, but very clumsy in a funny way too. But it just has a lot of possibilities for any artist working. You just start thinking about clever ways to use it and to use the colors on top of each other. And after a while, it becomes quite fluid as you begin to learn to use the machine. And it prints very, very quickly. It prints 2 colors at once, and you can take the drums out and replace them with other colors. So in a 2-hour session, if you use it very playfully, you can come up with quite a lot of really interesting color combinations. There's a little close-up. It looks like me as a child. I'll move through these quickly as we show some details. Little bathroom scene. I like lyrics from old songs. This is from a Supreme's song. Another image from an old bodybuilding magazine. That's something going wrong with the toilet, I think. There's a close-up of one of the interior pictures. Another one. As you see, I went wild printing these things. It was really a wonderful, playful experience. It became like painting after a while. I'm almost through. There's my cranky next door neighbor who happens to look like a Leonardo da Vinci painting. I used a lot of type. That's actually a quote from, not William Blake, from Walt Whitman. And for the first time, I'll be showing the entire piece. As I said, it's quite massive. It's going to fill the entire room. I'll be showing it at the Leslie Lohman Gay Art Museum's Prince Street project space in February. So I've never seen the whole thing up, and nobody else has as well. So I'll be sending out invitations, so hopefully all of you will come. And that's it. So, questions, comments?
Harvey, the different colors of these prints, is it all printed at the same time, or do you print one set, say the reds, and then you do yellows and blues, or does it, like if you go to a regular printer, a print shop, you have a photograph or something, or a piece of work, you put it on the thing and you print it and it comes out. But this looks a little different. I mean, do you...
Well, yeah, it's kind of odd. It prints two colors at once. It's actually got two ink drums, and the other ink drums are all in cases that look like little dog carrying cases. And it'll print, depending on the order of the colors you're printing, it'll print slightly differently. But it prints two colors at once, and then you can put two other drums in and print two more colors. You can keep going forever, actually. Most of the things I did were three colors. I would print two colors the first run and go back and print a third on top of it, a darker, like the lines would be printed last. As I said, it's kind of an odd printing machine, really, and it's like a big toy. It's like, I mean, if you remember being a kid and having, like a Give a Show projector or an Easy Bake oven or Barbie's Malibu Dream House. It's kind of an odd, big toy that prints very quickly, and you, especially books and zines and things like that, you can print massive amounts, and you can do big runs quickly, just print, and you can adjust the speed. So it's a fabulous, high-tech printing process that feels like a childhood toy, if that explains it at all.
Have you got complete control over your color? Do you buy printing inks in colors that you just have to buy what they have?
Well, the colors are depending on what, Pan's the head of the department, the lab, and depending on what colors he chooses to have around, I think there were 12, 13 colors, something like that?
Right now we have 8 colors.
8 colors.
So essentially the way it works is, for every color you want to print, there's a cylinder, a drum that's dedicated to that color because it's stained with that ink. And if you want to, so that's dedicated to printing green or orange or what have you, but it prints with a CMYK type? You can do a version of CMYK, but we're substituting other kinds of, like a pure blue. So it's always going to be an approximation, but we're definitely, developing versions of CMYK. That's the difference. You're printing with, pure green, not a composite of yellow and cyan. Yeah.
I also want to say that, when we had this print slam, which was the evening, there's another one on Monday, but when the end of the summer, we, all the students, the grad students showed their work, and there were hundreds of pieces, but they were all absolutely phenomenal looking. Everybody had the most amazing looking, whatever they did. So it's a fabulous device, a vehicle for, a very playful thing like I did, or, a very subversive zine that somebody might be producing, but it's a great tool.
Is it limited in size that you can print? The paper size. Is it like, I see you got different sizes
as a
there.
copy machine is. It prints in up to 11 by 17. So it prints sizes like a copy machine does.
Do we have any more questions?
Harvey, you mentioned your cranky next-door neighbor. I was wondering which of your next-door neighbors you were referencing?
That question comes from my actual next-door neighbor, Linda Donald. No, nothing offensive, Linda. I adore you. No, she's a dream next-door neighbor.
I'm just wondering why everyone was alone in their own window and there was never more than one person.
Oh. I guess because most of them were bathroom scenes. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. There are a couple of couples, fashion magazine illustrations. I don't know. You've seen something. You dig into my psyche somehow, right? Any other questions?
How do you control the registration?
Well, you can control the registration. I was using very heavy stock, so it threw everything off. The feeder was taking it in at different speeds, and I needed a heavy paper stock to do the kind of folding that I was going to be doing so the thing would stand up. So I just had to abandon that. So the registrations were off always for me. So I just had to utilize that and make that work for myself. And I needed the heavy stock because this thing is actually, when I get the whole thing set up, it's quite tall. It's 6 feet high. So I needed that. But yeah, you can get very nice registration if you're doing a book, illustration for a book or something like that. But I had to give up.
Thanks, Harvey.
You're welcome.
Our final artist in residence for tonight. And as you can see, I mean, there's a huge range of work that can be produced with these machines. The technology is neutral. You're just pushing ink through a screen, through a stencil that's wrapped around a drum. And I think already the two different, the contrast between Fawn's work and Harvey's work, you see, the huge range of sort of possibilities. So our final artist in residence tonight is Tran. Tran is a visual artist based in New York and an animator for Super Deluxe. She makes videos, installations, video games, and comics. She was co-creator and host of the psychedelic television cooking series Food Party for IFC and Late Night Munchies for MTV, which if you don't know, if you haven't seen Food Party, I would recommend looking it up on YouTube. There's a lot of quite insane and amazing back episodes that are online. She has held residencies at the Clock Tower Gallery, the Ace Hotel, Bemis Center, Spaces Cleveland, and Artforum Nebraska. Her installations at the Museum of Moving Images, Mutant Leftovers, was called, quote, gross but mesmerizing by the Creators Project. A collaborator of Baby Castles, she has helped produce game installations and workshops, including Meow Town, a cat town, at Le Gates Lyrique in Paris, and Cyborg Workshop at Worm, Rotterdam. Her latest games are in collaboration with Ivan Safran and Bobo Do, Cleveland Games, Pasta Shooter, and Hellmouth. Please give a round of applause for Tran. Just click on the next one.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks, Pan, and RisoLAB, and all you guys. I had a lot of fun this summer. It did feel like a really amazing Riso summer vacation, because like every time I came in, I just like, oh, what do I print today? And I did just kind of treat it like I'm just gonna have a lot of fun printing as much as possible. And I wound up kind of like during my residency, my hope was to work on a comic book from start to finish, but like I just spent like most of the time writing, and then during the printing time, I would just kind of like just print whatever I could. So these are some images that I just kind of started to play with, like during, I took a Riso class earlier in the year with Patrick. It was like a mini comics class, and my goal for taking that class was, for most of my work, I've done like a lot of like live action video work before that, and I've kind of just started doing more like 3D animation and kind of like designing assets for games and stuff like that. But for the most part, like my drawing skills were like not very strong, and I wanted to like figure out, or at least like learn how to finish drawings or make drawings that looked finished. Just because like prior to that, like drawing has mainly been more of like a means to an end, just mainly doing sketching and really like kind of sloppy storyboarding. These prints are just food prints. This drawing series I made, it's actually in collaboration with my friend Sandra. I just draw all these like food. I kind of drew these more like random food asset type things, and then just kind of collaging them randomly together to make these prints. And just experimented with different colors I can print them in. Most of them are three colors or so. And this is some earlier stuff, just like some drawings. These are the drawings I did with my friend Sandra. She draws these girl heads, and then like I just try to, I guess, like turn my other stuff into the clothes for it. This is like what her work looks like. She's a really amazing illustrator as well, and I've always kind of like looked up to her, and just like in the way that like she like, I don't know, we're close friends only because she's like my only friend who will go out and eat intestines with me, or like pig feet, or just like those like the kind of Asian foods that scare a lot of Americans. So we made the zine together. They're just, I'll just kind of share some spreads here. And they're just, I don't know, we just kind of had fun, just like drawing stuff. And for us, like these are just the kind of drawings that we make almost automatically without thinking twice about it, you know? Like she just kind of tends to draw certain things, and I do as well. So these are kind of the prints that we made for that. Another project I worked on for another couple weeks was these photos. These photos was this was a failed project from a couple years ago. I made these with the intention of replacing the artwork in my mother's salon in Cleveland, because like she kind of got into finding all my old artwork from high school and stuff, like all the bad still lifes and figure paintings you make when you're in art school. She just started hanging them up in her salon, you know, and it just like mortified me every time I went there to like look at, you know, like your dark past. So I just wanted to like make nice photos for her. So I like staged like this whole, like it was like a whole production. Like I had a photographer, nail artist, 2 hand models, and I set up like this like thing in my apartment, and we spent like a whole evening just like shooting all these photos. And I had a friend who worked at Box who like they print photos for Annie Leibovitz, you know, so these are going to be like really nice, you know, I was going to hook my mom up, and I was like really excited about them. And I thought the photos they're kind of like whatever, but and then when I printed them, or my friend photo prints them, I gave them to my mom, and she was just kind of like, you want me to hang these up in my salon? Because her criticism was, I didn't Photoshop these are just like straight out of the camera and printed, and a lot of the posters in her salon, they would be more airbrushed or glamorous. So I was like, oh, maybe I could try Riso printing these, because you lose all that hyperreal detail with a photo, and it kind of like looks cooler. And actually, I was really happy with these prints. They looked really cool. I don't know if you can tell. I guess it's hard. I printed these CMY, no black, and so all the red channel is all hot pink, and it changed the colors to make it look really cool. And she was, I gave them to her, and she was slightly less. She liked them a little bit more, but like not enough to hang them up in her salon yet. But the one that she actually liked was this one. So I think I just kind of have to take a whole nother direction with these. Was because like I just did this really quickly too. It's like, oh, I'll just trace one of these photos and see if she likes this graphic one. And sure enough, she's like, I like this one the most, but you did such a bad job drawing it, you know. And I go, yeah, you're right. I'll do a better job next time. So that's what that is. So that's one of the projects I worked on. This I'm just sharing. I did this for like as a demo for a workshop where it was pretty simple figure drawing and Riso printing. So I just kind of like used this Botero painting that I really liked and made a drawing. And then these are the channels, the 2 different color layers I made. And I think I was just kind of like interested in not coloring on a computer like I was with the other prints. I wanted to color stuff by hand and to see, because I really like how it prints. I really like how Riso prints pencil, how it still looks like pencil. So I printed this in a couple different colors, and I like it. So that's that. This is just like another drawing experiment. This was what I ate the past 2 years. You know how people take photos of their food a lot? I've had that habit since a long time ago, but when I take photos of what I'm eating, it's just like it has to be like you have to do kind of discreetly because you don't want your friends to make fun of you. So a lot of times it'll be like mid or like I'm by myself, you know, and like I didn't really do a good. I mean, like doing this like just kind of recording this more personally. It just kind of made me realize how many different kinds of spaghetti I ate. I was showing this one because this is some stuff I worked on last year to kind of give you more context. This was actually for a video installation piece I made for the Museum of Moving Images, and I just kind of collaged all my like basically all the food that I cooked for myself, and a lot of times it's not pretty. And I tried to turn that into like a really beautiful ocean, and I thought it came out pretty cool. This one, this was for Hellmouth. This was the concept art I made for it. And the Hellmouth is a cooking game that takes place in hell. And there's like these two weird demon creatures who, it's a 2-player game. You fight head to head in a battle course where you hunt for ingredients to cook food for Satan. And at the end, like, he judges what you're eating, and he goes, he either gives you a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but in the beginning of the game, he prompts you, like, make me a salad, or like, I want dessert, or he'll kind of prompt you with like what he wants to eat, and the goal is to run around the course and find the ingredients you need to cook the thing. So it's all 3D. But what was cool about this was we used my painted textures, because we worked with the 3D artist and a programmer, and he just kind of like, it was really cool how he turned the drawings into 3D. This is fighting over a crab, and you can fight each other too, like you can like steal food. It's pretty fun. One day we'll finish the game. So these are some of the assets I drew for it. And I found out that I really just like drawing assets. It's like really fun to just like draw everything you need in the game, just like on one page. It's like really fun. These are 2 books that were like really inspiring to me when I made this other book. What I really like about the Codex Seraphin, I don't even know how to say that, Seraphinian is. I never had to say it out loud. I really like how everything just like is super made up, even the language. And I just kind of like, it's just kind of cool to see, just kind of like imagination. I know it always comes from somewhere, but it's kind of cool to like not really know where as well, like how mysterious that is. So I made this book a while ago, which I thought was like okay, and I actually, I made this before I knew what Riso was, but like I made it after I saw something that was Rizograph, but I didn't know that it was called Rizograph or what it was. I just like picked up a comic book. I picked up a comic book that had blue lines. This is like why I designed it this way. I just saw this comic book that I thought looked cool. So I made this book at this residency, and I made it pretty quickly too, and it was printed newsprint, an inkjet printer, and the guy at the residency was really amazing because we had similar bootlegging qualities that we really liked. Like he just like had this normal consumer inkjet printer that he would hook up bottles of ink into with like the tubes and stuff. It was like really, and it was just like a way for artists to make books, you know, but it was like very like bootlegged, but that was how I printed this book, and I only made like 20. Then I ran out, I was like, oh, I can do that again. So this time I wanted to hand color it, and I just did this landscape as a study, but then it turned into the cover of the book as well. Because what was lacking in these other ones was like I just kind of like going back, it's like, oh, I would fix the lettering, and like they all need backgrounds, you don't know where they are, and there's a lot of wasted space and all that stuff. So I'm just gonna share the whole book with you guys. I won't read it, I'll just kind of go through it. But what was funny about some of these captions is it's a really organic book. Like for each page, I just kind of just like look at it and just kind of write down what I'm thinking when I look at it, you know, just kind of like the way someone might be exploring in the woods, you know, and then like, oh, I see a kangaroo. It has 3 ears. Oh, this creature startled me. Did it startle you? I thought it was one of the trees in the woods. Then it revealed its eyes to me. Its eyes are like a big boom pies. How did I mistake you? So, I don't know, it's like pretty playful. And they're all kind of in the same place, but not. And it's just supposed to feel like you're walking around somewhere, and then there's a surprise ending, and that's it. That ends my talk.
Any questions?
Just a quick question. Excuse me. Were they printed on that Riso machine?
Yeah, they were.
How many inks?
It was 3. It was pink, fluorescent pink, yellow, and blue. And I just used the pre-existing CMYK channels. I just didn't use the black one.
So you separated the shot with Photoshop
Yeah.
channels.
Yeah, in the channels, right. So I just printed each channel as like a different, as a separate ink color.
I have a question. What do you see what's the connecting, what connects all the different things you do? Because you work in different mediums.
I really don't know, Pan. I really I feel like I don't think long term. I think that's the big problem. Like I always think about, oh, this is fun right now, I'm gonna do this. One day I hope to find a way to, or at least find the thread.
So do you work intuitively, like just kind of follow your gut?
Yeah, I definitely follow, if it doesn't, I definitely follow my gut a lot, to a fault, but it's I don't know. I just always feel like I just do whatever I feel like doing.
Are there any more questions? All right, well, thank you guys all for coming out tonight. As we said before, we're gonna have the print slam on Monday, so you can check out what our students did this semester, including students from our brand new undergrad class, which I was really excited to teach this semester, and have kind of challenged my students with some different concepts and sort of thinking about technology and art. And also we have course registration pamphlets up at this table over here, and all kinds of other work. Some of our artists and residents have brought work you can check out. And if you have any questions, you can speak to me or attend our info session on January 11th. So yeah, let's give a round of applause for all our artists and residents.